I am M,
I'm G,
eclectic disciples of Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
and we are the Paranormal Terraformation. Coming to you live today from the Great Russell Park. All right, so we're doing our part 2 of the Fallen Angel Alien Abduction series, and without further ado, I'm just going to jump right in today, and I want to begin. I have some notes. We're going to stick to our notes and do some discussion because I feel that these are pretty pertinent, important points, and it's something we want to discuss. So without further ado, this time I want to lay some groundwork based on my observations and experiences. Firstly, I want to say that each person could be tuned differently to reality. That tuning might make some individuals more sensitive, more open to this kind of experience itself. So what do I mean by tuning? I mean a different receiver, a wider broadband, or the ability to pick up additional signals. Some people possess a unique dimensional sensitivity. Many people are tuned primarily to the ordinary physical world. The physical world for some permeate them. The Friday night football and I got a Saturday, go to the in-laws and
The bars.
Yeah, the bar room, the physical world. So these kind of people, I would say, are actually still prime for what happens to humans from the other realm worlds. They're just not as aware of it as other people probably are. But those who are expanded, those who carry not only inherited neurological traits, I'm going to say inherited sensitivities or perceptual tendencies. And this isn't just about DNA itself, because I am someone who does really believe that there is such thing as DNA memory from your ancestors, passed down. I do. I believe that. And that's generational patterns of experiences, obviously. You have a dimensional individuality. We all do. You do, I do, he does. And we may be opened and tuned uniquely based on what circumstances have affected us the most. We have light, we have a frequency as a human. We each have a unique electrical activity, a unique electromagnetic field, resulting in a unique interaction with reality itself. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm having an experience here, and it's actually spiritual for me. Where with some people, I'm just sitting here drinking a beer, whatever, with my buddy. And I'm not attuned. I'm not tuned into those higher levels. And I'm not saying you can't be, but I'm saying there are some people who actually are not. I'm laying this groundwork for a reason. Stay with me here. Not only do we have unique human signatures, but everyone has not only unique DNA, but their own unique neural wiring and brain activity. People differ greatly in perception, intuition, and sensory processing. This itself could allow certain people to perceive aspects of existence seemingly inaccessible to other people. If you add negativity to this, though, which this is what I'm getting into. They could be more accessible to negative entities. And we are talking about alien abduction here. Now let's add life experiences that can also alter you spiritually, biologically. Examples of that are grief, trauma, spiritual and near-death experiences. These can alter and expand your states of consciousness. Throughout life experiences and emotions, they shape a person's energetic signature and create an individual field of consciousness. And if you add in profound grief, trauma, and you may have a person able to perceive reality that seem ordinarily inaccessible to someone with a smaller dimensional field. I mean, traumatic experiences that cause emotional shock. They can transform you, causing you to carry a heightened field of sensitivity and an altered perception, leading to a greater openness to, let's say, unusual experiences or negative entities. A UFO researcher and a psychiatrist named John E. Mack recorded and reported a noticeable number of people claiming abduction experiences. They all described difficult childhoods, trauma, abuse, or other unusual experiences. And this isn't just novel to John E. Mack. Other researchers also found that there are higher rates of childhood adversity, disassociation, sleep disturbances, and paranormal experiences among the abductee. So trauma opening the emotional field led to a greater permeability to non-ordinary realities. Opening dimensional fields causing experiences with other dimensions, negative beings, encounters with beings that exist in another layer of reality. And these individuals have these experiences through their altered state of reality that opened a larger consciousness field, an energy field, to negative alien encounters and the abduction experience itself. Now let's talk about alien manifestation from an interdimensional perspective. Yes, this could fit what we call the Watchers and Fallen Angels, a non-physical intelligence interacting with a vast human energy field of about 8 billion people. And they are interacting, temporarily increasing them in their coherence and manifesting in our physical reality. They feed on your light, on your sound, on your human emotion, and this facilitates manifestations. That's when they become more detectable, more visible, more interactive with matter. And you take someone who's tuned just right with a vastly open dimensional field, and now you have someone who maybe can see them, who can attract them, more so than others, and who can, sense them and feel them. Why would a vastly dimensionally open person attract them? Because of the person's increased energy field, increased openness, and an increased vulnerability. That word doesn't reflect weakness, and I want to make that perfectly clear. It doesn't mean weakness. It means their field destabilization caused by trauma, chronic fear, deep grief, extreme stress has disrupted their emotional and psychological energy boundaries. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. And you have anything you want to add to this while we're going?
Well, it makes me think about, let's see if I can do this properly. I want to say there are 3 dominant orientations that each individual here on this planet has to these negative beings. You have two of them ironically are rooted in a different orientation, but they still outwardly seem to be the same. So I'll start with the 2. You have individuals that inside themselves, their frequency, their sound, their vibration, their orientation of consciousness stands against evil to varying degrees, and therefore their relationship, which is not a relationship at all in the normal way that we use the word relationship, but their, for lack of a better word, relationship with these negative entities is one of conflict, meaning they're recognized as people who attempt in some way inside themselves to fight against the dark ones. Then you have the other orientation where people are more in alignment with them, meaning they're not necessarily a threat. They don't necessarily have any resistance or friction against the will, the actions, the influence of the Dark Ones, of these aliens, and therefore the aliens treat them differently. That doesn't mean that they're not fed on. That doesn't mean that they're not afflicted. It's just the orientation is less, I guess you can say, in conflict, because they recognize that that person
Absolutely.
is more or less.
Absolutely.
Yes. The second one would entail a sort of ignorance to the existence of these entities, where, again, they see this individual as more so controllable, more so in alignment, where while they're watching their path through the world and through time, it's not much of a threat. So they still feed, they still attack. But again, it's not going to be a sort of overt conflict and warfare with these type of individual, because they're not really fighting back. And then the third orientation is people who are willingly letting them in. Now you're getting into deeper levels of the occult. You're getting into, where the whole concept of sacrificing animals, the type of things things that you could find in Satanism, and just those practices where the soul isn't intent on serving evil in and of itself. Getting into types of witchcraft and sorcery, invocation, type of Aleister Crowley like methods, and they differ from the ignorant individual because they're actively serving.
Yes, they are.
They're also fed on. They're also used a lot of time, and this is a whole nother that's a whole nother path. But
Lord.
Anyways, but those.
No, but I like that you brought up the whole Aleister Crowley, when he was conjuring up this creature he called Lamb. He's conjuring up an evil spirit, a fallen one, a demonic. He's conjuring up what he can from the other side, the dark side. It looked like the so-called typical alien depiction that we have today, which it goes along with what I'm talking about today too. I'm glad you brought up Crowley. We are also talking about, between the two of us, the interaction of how drugs and alcohol can also distort someone's personal energy field, make them more vulnerable to these spiritual parasites, alien / fallen angel kind of encounters, or their ability to attach. I want to say attach because I'm talking about oppression, obviously, but to attach to a person or a person's entire line, their entire family, and cause havoc. So we were talking about that. That goes along with when I'm talking about energy fields and you being a creature with many dimensional fields. You're open to so much more than what the general person sees and feels. And there are some people out there who definitely sense spirit and know when something negative is around them, or they know when something good is around them. But they're far and few between. And I think that we were born to have these senses intact. And the mind control and the socialization project that we're under by the elites that run everybody all over the world. This whole mind control, this whole social program that we're under kind of dummies you down. It doesn't kind of dummy you down. It absolutely dummies you down. And it desensitizes you also to things that you should be very sensitive to, but you're not. Because these are commonplace things you see on television, you hear in music. You've grown up watching and seeing some of the most horrific things that are now seemingly normal to you. I mean, a lot of people like going to the movies so they can see horror movies and murder and mayhem and to me, that is another thing that opens your field to negativity, so to speak. But back onto what I was getting, so I can conclude and you actually do yours. All right. These are what I call reasons for personal dimensional energetic distortions. Some may think that, well, I never had an alien abduction and I get drunk and I get high. I'm saying that your tuning may be less receptive to those manifestations, but I promise you,
It is definitely a promise.
you are still being fed on. You're being watched, and I mean, you're having encounters if you're aware of them or not. That's just a fact. And you are probably under oppression. You're probably oppressed and you don't even know it. And let me expound on oppression. All right. The manifestation, the clinical, spiritual manifestation of oppression is fear, despair, and I mean persistent, by the way, persistent fear and despair. Like say, I have a heart problem, even though I don't, I just had a small chest pain. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid that if I go out today, I'm afraid, you're afraid, you're afraid, you're afraid. You're continuously having distorted fear, all right? And your despair, and it's persistent. And then there's temptation. You're tempted by things that are pretty dark, all right? And you're attracted to destructive behavior. And it's persistent, all right? You have persistent, intrusive thoughts, reoccurring nightmares, a deep sense of hopelessness, persistent conflict, chaos, discouragement, frightful spiritual experiences, hearing voices, even telepathic, seeing things that cause you distress, things in your mind, and they won't stop. This is oppression, okay? And then, the stage where it goes from oppression to possession, a lot of people don't believe in this. I have personally seen it once, a long time ago. I can tell you that it's real, and you'd never forget. If you have ever been near something like that, it marks you. But this is the next stage, and it's called possession. Speaking in languages a person hasn't learned. They didn't grow up around. They just don't know, but suddenly it's there. Displaying knowledge of hidden or private information that you wouldn't normally know. Extraordinary physical strength that seems far beyond the person's capability. Intense hostility towards prayer or anything to have to do with God or Jesus Christ. Dramatic changes in your voice or facial features. All right, so I want to do this because I'm getting to something here, and yes, this is about alien abduction. So let's see where we have commonalities or overlap similarities with oppression, possession, and so-called alien abduction, all right? So-called alien abduction and encounters, firstly, they contain a deceptive spiritual experience. We are your creators. We spliced you. We are your ascendant masters. Right, no, you're not. Secondly, the encounters cause severe fear, paralysis, telepathic communication, and reporting from abductees. They use the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, and these abduction scenes just stop. All right. Here's some interesting similarities actually reported across possession experiences and alien encounters. Possession, sense of a presence. Alien encounter, same. Possession, telepathic communication. Alien encounter, same. Possession, missing time. Alien encounter, same. Possession, sleep paralysis. Alien encounter, same. Possession, intense fear. Alien encounter, same. Bright lights sometimes reported. Alien encounter, often reported. Lifelong, reoccurring experiences, sometimes reported. Alien encounter, frequently reported. These are the overlapping and similar. If you take these two and you put them side by side, it kind of looks like they might be the same thing. But now let's go a step further right into the book of Enoch in the Bible, and in a comparison with alien phenomena in the Bible and in the book of Enoch. Angels or watchers descend from heaven or the heavens. Alien phenomena. UFOs descend from the sky or appear to arrive in luminous crafts. Biblical angels are described as luminous objects or glowing beings. UFO reports describe luminous objects or glowing beings. Mr. Dr. Stephen Greer. Angels in Scripture often begin by saying, do not be afraid. Now, we're talking about the good guys here. We're talking about real angelic encounters way back in biblical times, the book of Enoch, and even, yes, they even happen today. So they will start by saying, do not be afraid. They do not want you to fear. Fear is not of God. The other ones, you know, they're not like that. They want to cause fear. They actually feed on it. So obviously, angels in Scripture often begin by saying, do not be afraid, but the negative entity alien encounters describe overwhelming fear. I'm speaking of the negative encounters, so-called alien abductions. And these negative beings I do believe to be the Watchers. I do. I believe them to be fallen angels. They're rebellious spirits, principalities, powers, non-human intelligence, interdimensional entities, or today's term, aliens. These names, they vary and change over time, and yet these creatures remain. Because they're being cut off from God, they feed and thrive on human beings, just as they always have. And they have. That's how they manage to stay in, like the beginning I said, having enough power to manifest and to do what they do.
Including sustaining their pseudo-immortality.
Exactly. Yeah. And oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. Something that's cut off from God can't be eternal without it, and it has to feed on something. And if you're not in this kind of matter, but you are in existence, you're feeding on something. And from what we've discovered and researched and learned about these creatures, that the light and the sound, human frequency, it's something enough to sustain them. And they've been doing it for a very long time. The similarities are striking and obvious, yet many lack to see or put together the truth, what's really happening, because it's really happening, obviously. And it's been since a really long time ago, actually since the Garden of Eden. I'd like to finish with two Bible verses. A literal rendering of 1 Timothy 4:1. Now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times some will depart from the faith by devoting themselves to deceitful spirits, spiritual beings, and teachings of supernatural spirits. Supernatural meaning beyond the ordinary course of nature, not made of flesh and blood. And then I want to go to Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the spiritual forces of evil. In where? The heavenly places. Heavenly places meaning heavenly realms. The unseen spiritual realm. Yeah, the unseen spiritual realm. Okay, now I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, I actually wanted to discuss a little bit more about the things that you said.
Well, let's go.
Starting, I guess, from where you ended. So we're under the impression that actually Ephesians 6:12 is one of the, I don't know, it's a verse that's a gem for us.
It is,
so to speak.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's on the top three.
Yeah, it's in the top three. And obviously it begins by saying, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers.
It's a warning.
We do believe, though, that even though the verse, the principle, the law is stating that we do not ultimately wrestle against flesh and blood. That's not what our primary enemy is. That does not mean that flesh and blood ultimately end up being a part of the equation.
No. See, it's warning you that when you're in this spiritual battle, in this time, at this time where this seems to be a pivotal time, you're having the UFO files opened, you're having people come out of the woodwork saying, you know, and then there's videos, aliens in a military base. It's prime time for this. And the Bible explicitly tells you, you're not fighting flesh and blood here. You're fighting powers and principality. You're fighting something that came from a heavenly realm. And heaven doesn't always mean way far above the clouds and the stars. It's a dimension.
To kind of add a little bit more to this concept about not wrestling against flesh and blood, yet potentially wrestling against flesh and blood, this is how I see it, and I've talked to you about this multiple times, but at the end of the day, what is something that every human being needs? At some point in time, we need to ultimately go to sleep. And a good way to grasp how pertinent, how powerful, how important the so-called spiritual forces actually are to our entire physical world, where it can seem like there's a difference. Well, it's literally internal forces that drive a person to eventually get up out of bed. You know, their will, their so-called thoughts and emotions eventually have them control their body, where they wake up and then they go and do acts out in the world. So if something can influence those inner forces, your mind, your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs, then when that person eventually gets up and interacts with the world, depending on what's inside of them, it's going to determine what their actions are actually going to be. And that's why the whole concept of spiritual warfare being actually a very big equation to this matters, because it's not a single physical act, not a single thing we say, think, or feel that isn't rooted in something that's more inward, something more subtle, something more spiritual. Yes, the manifestation.
That vast dimensional creature that you are.
Exactly. So I just wanted to add that in there. That's why behind every physical action, behind every physical act, is a corresponding spiritual one. Mm-hmm. Thoughts and emotions in this context are spiritual. In fact, I get it in science, they try to say everything that we feel and experience is tied to chemicals, but the thing is that many times your thoughts and emotions are going to precede the chemical cascade. Yes, there's a physical manifestation to the spiritual force, but the spiritual force will precede the physical manifestation.
I think it's telling how the body has these kind of why would the body have those exact chemicals for the kind of reaction that you need for your environment? Anyways, it's very spiritual to me. It's very intentional.
Yes.
Like God made you perfect in that way for your body, your physical vehicle, to house your spirit, which is a very feeling, loving, happy, can get sad, the spirit is a very vast creature, and it sits inside a physical body that needs to be able to handle it. So it just, wow, the depth of God, and a perfect creation that we once were before they came.
Did what they did, yeah, exactly.
And did what they did to mankind, which is an atrocity, actually.
And yes, mankind ultimately had a part to play in it.
We still do.
And we still do. But I would say that God ultimately deemed mankind more so like the child that gets kidnapped.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you're talking about something that has existed in creation for billions of years beyond more or less man's entry into creation, and that interaction of the adult and the child at that time was seen for what it was. And I can't completely ride that, because there still was within the ability for humans to, in ways, disallow what happened to happen, but
they didn't. But yes, I think that Jesus Christ of Nazareth went to the cross because we can't be, in this state, we can't be perfect. And we've proven that time and time again. And why is that? Because there's a spiritual influence on these energetic dimensional realms that we are as spirit people, and we are influenced and we're pulled. And I mean, if he didn't go to the cross for us, you know, like he said, you're saying, like, God is the father and we are the kidnapped child.
yeah,
We've had bad things done to us. Now we need to be rehabilitated, but he had to pay the ransom.
Yeah, exactly.
To get us back, and he did.
Because ultimately, and that, we got to save some time for these topics in part 3 or in other videos.
Right.
But in our theology, the fallen, these negative aliens, are persistently evil to a degree that they ultimately were deemed non-redeemable. And it gets into the...
Think about how bad you have to be non-redeemable.
To be deemed non-redeemable, meaning that within, even though people down here, and this is where the correction needs to come, want to claim that the purest, I don't like the word pure evil, but I know that we use it down here because evil isn't pure, but when you think of pure evil, how we use it, there are people down here that believe that somehow love and light and that can be rehabilitated and spared and saved. Well, the thing is that not according to God. There is a point of no return. There is a particular state that you get in where you have no desire, no will to turn back, to become good. This is your existence now. This is your existence now. And the beings on the bad side that afflict mankind on a mass level, we believe to be non-redeemable. But mankind was not given that same sort of judgment.
And why not?
Well, I would say it gets into the laws of free will, the fact that...
Right, but think about this. You're talking about why mankind got a chance and the fallen were just irredeemable. Why were those angels just irredeemable? Why? Why are we okay to be redeemed, but not them?
Okay, well, good question. The notion behind that has something to do with the difference in proximity to God. For example, when the angels would have fallen, when something that was created towards the beginning with as much wisdom in the state that they were in, they would have been able to behold God as he was, to a higher capacity. Actually, it's one of the characteristics of angels that can distinguish them for humans. Humans seem to have this ability to have come into a creation that was kind of built, settled, and already fabricated for them. Actually, a little bit of this is in how Genesis starts to step itself out, where the stars and the firmament and the sun and the earth were created. Eventually, mankind comes on the scene. So it seems like the angelic entities were more so the ones that tended and aided in that particular type of creation. Yeah, they were supposed to be. But mankind kind of came into that as if it would have been a gift for them. That was to be something special about them.
Yeah, take care of me.
Exactly. And then, but when you have these things that were, again, already there, attempt to do what they did to mankind in all of the ways that manifests that.
So evil.
Eventually,
it's like when adults harm children in my
exactly.
mind.
It is really like that.
It is.
It's almost like the law that they were judged, they try to somehow impart and make mankind partake under that same judgment in order to eradicate us and have us lost to God as well.
Yeah.
But Father was able to see that as it actually was, and mankind was deemed to not be in the level of fall to the same capacity that the fallen were.
Amen.
And him coming into the flesh would have been the way that he would had to come under the law, the divine laws in creation, when it came to the fact that, and that's where the splicing whole concept
We
comes
have a
in as
lot
to
to
why
get
he would
into.
need to come into the
Right.
body.
We have a lot
Yes,
to
we
get
do.
into in the future. But we went on a rant now.
Yes.
And it is your turn.
Yes, it is my turn.
It is your turn. So
All right.
I think that it's my fault because I bring up these subjects that, but it really is pertinent to what we're talking about, because a lot of people are going to be like, well, you're supposed to be talking about alien abductions and you're talking about God and angels. Well, yeah.
No, it ultimately all ties in. That's the thing. It
That's
really
what
does.
I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to show. I think it's crazy that people can separate it. Especially some people that I've followed for years, some people that are really well-known people. And they start out good, and then they end up over here on this side where they have just, all of that is erased now. There's, the God part is gone,
Yeah.
and the fallen angel part is gone. Now there's just aliens. It's like they got into.
Yes, it's and this is why we consider ourselves to be eclectic disciples of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, because we attempt to synchronize and try to find that sort of theory of everything within this domain of things. Like,
Keep your eyes open.
it's almost like, just like some people lose faith because they could find out that man had something to do with the construction of the Bible. But say you found out that the Bible in and of itself was tampered with, or basically you understand that because man is imperfect, how could something like the Bible then be taken or have any truth in it? Well, first I'd say two things. You would have to say that about anything that's being said or heard around you, that it would be making a claim that no one can know the truth or speak the truth, or truth can't be written down because we have an imperfection to us. And no one lives that way, honestly. We all live as if we believe something to be absolute to one degree or another, even if it's that you need to eat every day to live. You still are taking things as truth. Secondarily, how does that eradicate the existence of God in and of itself? God is transcendent to the book. The existence of a creator is ultimately a principle and concept, a reality that can't be bound by basically any text when you come to the grand scheme and scope of who and what God is. So when people lose themselves that way, where it's like, well,
It's crazy.
it's wild.
Some of the best people have just gone. They're gone now. And what did you learn? You learned more about, Pleiadians, and now there's no
Yeah.
God. How does
How?
that work? How
Because
does
who
that work?
created them? You know what I mean? Like, how do you
They
can't?
created themselves,
Oh, so they're God then. So
See,
you believe?
that's what I'm saying.
Like,
Yeah, there it is.
it's just
That
wild.
makes no sense. Anyways.
Anyways,
Yes, now it is your turn, though.
so in part one of this series, we were discussing an abductee experience, and within that experience was the element of paradigm/reality manipulation, i.e., inception. While the individual was in the middle of a visitation in which they were aware of an insectoid and its posse of greys, the insectoid was creating an overlay or false projection into the mind of the abductee. The projection consisted of things appearing to happen that were not actually happening, and it seems clear the intent was to distract or divert and hold the attention and awareness of the contactee away from the truth of what was actually taking place. The spellcast was efficient enough that the abductee believed the illusion that Christmas presents were being opened in their house, at least for a moment. For part 2 on alien abductions and fallen angels, I want to dive deeper into this particular variable of their experience by getting into what I deem portal technology. To start, I want to make a bold claim based in advanced metaphysics. Now, 2 things before the claim. Mind you, the abductee was awake in the beginning of the visitation and was rendered or forced to sleep. So to be clear, I'm not saying the experience was false or fake. In fact, the entity was using the fake and false projection in order to induce a trance on the mind of the abductee, as a means to which it would be able to shut them down, so to speak. And that is a whole topic unto itself when it comes to the rules of engagement we spoke about in part 1. But I digress for now. And back to the portal technology. So the claim that I want to make, again, I said 2 things. So the second thing is I want you to discern this claim. We plan to encourage consistently for people to discern all things, including the things that we speak. It's very important for you to learn how to become your own gatekeeper, the gatekeeper of your own mind. But anyways, the claim that I want to make is that I believe that sleep is indeed a portal. This idea is not new, as you can find the principle referenced in the Bible, the Book of Enoch, Judaism, Islam, Sufism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, ancient Egypt, etc. To one degree or another, there is the acknowledgement that the soul, spirit, that consciousness is engaging with far more than the mundane sciences and psychologies would reason. To the literal concept that we travel or partially separate from the body when we enter through the gate we call sleep. And also, there is also the concept that things in other realms and other dimensions and other worlds can make contact with us while we sleep as well. So my journey on this particular trail of thought began as a kid, ultimately, when it comes to the death of my grandmother, but I digress from that for now. But it was not until 2012 when all doubt and questioning I had about the idea that sleep is a gateway was annihilated by what I call a class 5 nightmare. Observe. So this experience I'm talking about began, as I said, back in 2012, and it was after what I could only describe as being quote unquote saved, in the context that we actually mean it when it comes to having an interaction with Jesus Christ in Nazareth in a way that in and of itself is dimensional, interdimensional. And up until that point, I would say that I kind of was walking. I was breaking free from the dark hold that was trying to bring me in different directions. But at the same time, I wasn't necessarily oriented towards God. The timing was actually perfect. But anyways, what ended up happening was what I call a class 5 nightmare. And how it ended up happening was it was like a day or 2 after I had accepted the reality that God, not just that God existed, but he actually incarnated into our world and walked amongst us. It was going to change everything about me. And I feel that looking back, that change was sensed by things that were around me at the time. So about a day or 2 later, I was sleeping and I had an experience. That doesn't mean that it was true, but I also don't believe it was false, and I'll explain why. So in this dream, I was standing on a road which was a path, and in front of me there was these two like vampire demon looking entities. And I remember to the left, right of me on top of the roof, there were these two individuals that looked like they were like men in black. So a lot of times in dreams, sometimes you can identify things as they are without spoken word needing to be said or a thing needing to announce itself. It has a lot to do with how the subconscious language actually communicates. But to me, I obviously felt that the two entities in front of me were bad and the two on the rooftop were good, but they weren't intervening. And at that moment, I didn't understand why. But eventually, seeing these entities were so visceral, so, how should I say, captivating to me that I was actually frozen. And there was a point where, again, the experience, the next part that I can remember was it shifted into, I was having my hand out, but I was still frozen in place. And one of these beings actually, they had fangs, and they took those fangs and they drilled them into my hand, and my hand started to bleed. And not just that, I felt the physical pain of the teeth drilling my hand, that it's actually what ended up waking me up. And the reason why this experience was so profound to me is, up until that point, I don't believe that, even when it comes to having like emotional trauma or like emotional upheaval or negative emotion in dreams, or even sometimes when it comes to pain, I guess, when I wake up, that pain usually isn't there. This was the first time that I woke up, I know I was awake, and the pain from those teeth piercing my skin actually remained. It's almost as if my nervous system was still registering it. It didn't disappear. I was still feeling it on my hand. So much so that at that moment, actually, it was like 2, 3 in the morning. I ended up calling my mom. So this experience kind of made me revert back to kind of being like a kid, so to speak, despite everything I was and had gotten to at that moment. It was it's where, and to me, that's what I classify a class 5 nightmare. It's when you have pain inside your dream that eventually remains registered onto your physical body. And within this classification, like level 1 or a class 1 nightmare would be like an unpleasant dream. Say it's where you win a lottery, say you're winning the lottery in your dream, and then you ultimately have to wake up and realize that your waking world doesn't match your dream world, or any sort of what you would find pleasant experience, enough that it becomes unpleasant because the mismatch from that to even including like you're trying to run really fast you can't. Like those are the beginning of the disturbances within dreams. And then eventually class 2 would be where now you're having dreams based in negative emotion. Maybe you're arguing with a loved one. There's anxiety. There's dreams that obviously a lot of people may not consider of a nightmare, but it's not a pleasant experience. There's usually some sort of negative emotion. Class 3 starts getting into the sensation of fear. Maybe you're getting in a car accident, you're falling from heights, you're running away from things. There could be natural disasters, and eventually and then class 4 goes into sleep paralysis and the domain around that. And then class 5, and even within like the car accident and things like that, you may not be experiencing actual pain within the dream. Eventually, there's a point where nightmares have the capacity to influence your physiology. As me trying to blend like science, psychology, and the metaphysics together, it influences your physiology to the point where your nervous system is literally registering pain in some aspect of your body. Now, mind you, when we're awake, it's very, very hard for most people in a world where not a lot of people meditate. But even within that, it's very, very hard for most people to conjure and influence their bodies in ways that can be influenced when we are sleeping.
Well, if we're watching a movie.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So again, this is getting into portal technology, and I want to start with sleep as a portal. But that leads me into how I believe that our five senses act as gates. They act as portals in and of themselves. Actually, if you zoom in on the human eye, again, discern all things, I'm just saying, if you zoom in on a human eye and you look at the image of a human eye, it kind of looks like a black hole. We say things like the eyes are the window to the soul, I believe for a reason. I believe our eyes are gates. Light is literally entering our eye, and the light passes across everything around us. And there's literally an interaction with that, with our nervous system and how it gets to our brain and constructs images and stuff like that. Our ears, obviously, the things that you're hearing me speak right now, is another opening. The things that you touch, I mean, there's pores on our skin. Within the entire construct of what we are, there seems to be doors and openings and closings and gates all around. Our mouth, obviously, the things that you eat is another gate. So when we're awake, and I am making a link to these gates being portals, and again, this gets into, you have to I want people to understand that there is a thin line at many times between fiction and nonfiction when you really start putting things together. In this case, I'm talking about portals like in the movies. No, not 100% like in the movies, but there are ways where how portals operate in the movies have a basis in reality. And he also gets into how different beings actually make contact with us when it comes to DNA, when it comes to frequency, when it comes to light. Because again, like we said in part one, the physical body that you see of us right here, the physical body that you're using to watch, is built upon tinier and tinier and tinier and tinier units.
Well, it's the 4th of July, so.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, because you made such a great point, that it was making me think about how the UFOs carry those spiritual entities, and you're talking about the pores and the complexity of the human body. God made the most perfect vehicle for the spirit, that it's ingenious.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. I just had to, because wow.
Well, yes, because it's like we're when it comes to what it means to be created in the image and likeness of God, it actually is magnificent.
It's
despite many people's ability to grasp that, even when it comes to people who are believers. And one of the things that is getting in the way of us grasping that is what was done to us on a mass level when it comes to the very genetic material of our vessel, and also things likely done on dimensions leading up to
absolutely
how our senses operate, what's making us be able to be sensitive to this or that, going into how this whole thing ultimately connects.
Think about that. Think about the fall of man and how many colors you don't see now. You're not aware that you don't see them because you see, unless you're colorblind.
Yes.
But you're not aware that you don't see them because you can't perceive them. And it seems like we have been shut down to a degree, and it isn't a good thing, I don't think. But that whole vehicle, our spirit, this body is the vehicle for our spirit. Why does something need a UFO, plasmatic UFO to travel? What kind of body is it in? The kind of body that needs to feed on? I mean,
yes.
If you stand back and look at it, I'm just saying, it's so obvious what's really going on.
Yes, actually, to go into that for a moment, again, there's many things that we'll stress over and over again, hopefully talking about other things around it that help make it more concrete for anyone listening in. But you have to think, even if you wanted to say that aliens were like somehow flesh and blood, and if you cut them, they'll bleed on the ground. Okay, well, if that's so, it still needs to eat. You know, like you have to ask your question: are these things immortal, or do they have some range of mortality where they have limited lifespans? Do they have needs? Do they need water? Do they need, you know what I mean? Like when you start thinking about them in a real context, not being,
not the fantastical
yes,
context.
you start to be able to begin to touch exactly what they are when it comes, especially when it comes to everything that they're able to do and not do, including
And
not
withstand.
completely wipe us out right now, but
And
that's
withstand.
and
Well,
withstand.
They
Yes, and
can't
withstand.
wipe us all out at once. They won't eat anymore. I'm just saying.
Yeah, ultimately, that's one of the reasons that we believe that mankind, although there is definitely enough destruction for them to have.
Oh yeah, they'll get a good feeding in, but they'll leave some. I
Yeah.
mean, if you kill all the cows today, you don't have steak tomorrow because it's all gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a time and a place
Yeah.
for having a steak dinner. You can't have it all the time. I don't eat meat. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
making a comparison. It's probably a really bad one.
Well, we used to we used to talk about that when it came to whole vampire concept in movies too. It's like, okay, if a vampire's turning other people into vampires or needing to feed on everyone, at what point, what happens when there's no food left?
Right. What?
Then
we can't
you got
eat
these
each other?
hungry things that
can't eat each
they
other?
just that's where there's a self-destruct. Ultimately, at the end of the day,
They die of iron deficiency.
there is
Sorry. Stupid.
well, yeah. Basically, I mean, with those, I mean, those type of vampires, right?
Yeah, I had to.
Or anyway, actually,
But yes, we do make these comparisons, and I'm making that comparison not because of, you know, I'm not giving credence to people who eat meat. I mean, I love some people that eat meat, but I don't agree with it. But I'm using it as an analogy because that's how I feel that we are cattle to them.
well, yeah, we also do believe that the part that they imparted into us ultimately ends up manifesting in our predatory traits when it comes to the fact
there it
that we
is.
do need to feed on other things to.
You did
Well,
it.
it's not entirely a need.
You already
otherwise,
broke through.
Yes, but that's exactly the connection. So I know why you're using it, and yeah, that's a controversial thing. But again, in the just grand scheme and cosmology of things, that at the end of the day, when you really think about it, just detach yourself a moment from how good it tastes or whatnot. If you really just think about it,
Where's it from? What did it go through to get there?
the whole predator matrix in and of
Right,
itself.
but then why are we doing what Nephilim did? Sorry, why are we as creatures doing what Nephilim did? But anyways, that's
Yeah,
another.
I know,
And
we
you
want it.
you're on, and I'm.
No, I know that's the thing though.
But you started it.
Yes,
With your
yes.
good analogy. So all right. Anyways, shh.
So back to the gates of our senses. Our senses literally allow things in, and you mentioned what started this is you were mentioning the movies. Okay, so the thing about television, you know what we call it's literally portal technology right now. The way that light and sound is able to, that my sound and light is able to go through this device by a sort of, like, I don't have a cord running from my literal mouth and how you're able to see me to your eyes and ears right now. There's something in between that exists and operates sort of like a portal where you're able to see me and hear me right now. This is portal technology, another aspect of portal technology. I was talking about the organic portal technology, but now I'm also talking about the what we call inorganic or earth elements, which is technically organic being alchemized to
Technically.
create a
Technically.
means for us to do these things. So again, inorganic, organic, that's a whole nother topic. But when you're watching a movie, when you're watching television, the one of the things that is said, and you can fact check me on this, is that our brain waves actually shift when we're doing that. Something very, very intense sometimes can speed up our brain waves or phase lock us more on a beta gamma But we also have the ability at many times to go into an alpha state, and alpha state of mind, which is like, again, in order for you to passively watch something, I say again because it's something that, I've said before, but it might be the first time that I'm saying it on camera right now. In order for you in order for you to believe that a movie isn't a movie to any capacity, in order to enjoy it, that's what we do, you have to bypass the part of your mind that holds on to realism. You have to allow the fact that you don't know that they're acting, all the way to the point that, and your mirror neurons get involved in this, that your literal physiology starts reacting to things happening in the movie.
Right.
Now, mind you, back to spiritual forces. Is the movie physically touching you? No. Is a movie or television show physically there as the people that are acting in it? No. Are the effects physically there? Not necessarily. No, they're not physically there. But the light, the sound, all of what's actually contained within it, within the electromagnetic waves and the sound waves, is actually able to, again, after influencing your mind to some capacity, getting you to believe that it's real to some degree, that your body is literally responding to it with release of neurotransmitters in accordance with fear, in accordance with anxiety, depending on what you're watching. And this comes into why within Christianity and stuff like that, there can be a disclaimer into being careful what you watch. A lot of people are not guarded when they engage with this. In fact, they're not even... Anyways, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, but you're talking about be careful what you eat, because
Yes,
we also
exactly.
eat light.
We do eat light. Again, and again, yes, that's perfect. It does come down into, you need to be mindful of what you let in, because this is exactly what the good are looking to capitalize on if people actually give themselves over to having that type of intervention. But in a world that we live in today, it is indeed the bad that tends to take a lot of people's energy, a lot of people's attention, a lot of their physiology. And this gets into, again, portal technology. So you were talking about the differences in frequencies, the unique frequency signatures that we have, how trauma, pain, all these different things are happening to us in our reality, are shifting us, even when it comes to how epigenetics works. Epigenetics is kind of a concept, a true concept, where your thoughts, your emotions, the things in your environment actually can influence your DNA in ways where maybe, I believe, it can turn things on and turn things off. That's why they say diet and lifestyle actually, like your family can be prone to having something like maybe diabetes or high blood pressure in the line of how it's passed into that genetic template. But epigenetically, you can do things within yourself to potentially stop that from happening to you. But epigenetics also work when it comes to how you're feeling. This gets, like, I guess, to end for a moment before, so that we can talk a little bit more about this, is I believe that mind over matter is happening all the time. I believe that if you get angry, if you get sad, if you get happy, the fact that even on a physical level, your physiology will be affected by it, shows that our mind can literally influence our bodies. It's all about whether or not we actually take advantage of this fact for the good of things. Even when it comes to healing, which is something, when we end up talking about energy medicine, life force
Energy medicine is real.
With that aside, I was saying earlier when you were talking about the frequencies, how I was saying that there was like 3 different orientations to the bad. It's like, ironically, you were talking about talking about health, and it's like, yes, you get your frequency up, you get your body, your DNA, your mind, your emotions, you get them strong, you get that psychic defense, emotional defense, and when it comes to what they need, again, rules of engagement, which we haven't got into entirely yet.
Not yet.
But when it comes to rules of engagement, there's a lot that you can do to block out having them interfere with you. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that they don't stop trying. And it's
Exactly.
like getting into the law of correspondence, as above, so below, like in part 1. It's like there is an element of this, and this is again why God would have sided for humanity against them. There is an element where they're going to try to attack you, and even if, like, there's so many different levels of spiritual warfare, spiritual offense and spiritual defense. But at the end of the day, you're going to need weaponry and you're going to need armor of some sort, is what I want to get into. What you eat, both mentally, emotionally, and physically, aid in that offense or defense, aid in that weaponry or armor when it comes to what's going on. And our scope of the fallen, of these alien entities, goes into what I was talking about in the last video when it comes to event coordination. You said earlier, it's like everyone's kind of experiencing the onslaught of them to one degree or another. It's just who is aware of it. You had a bad day today. Guess what? Likely a stage of some sort of intervention, because this it gets into what we're even existing in right now when it comes to why this world is so full of suffering and pain dominantly from the get-go. Why we're mortal, like we're in here with them right now, and everyone's. I'm gonna go off, and I don't want to go off just yet.
Well, it's okay. I go off too.
Yeah.
You know, go off the rails. I mean, what we're doing is we're climbing a tree.
Yeah.
And there's so many branches that are on that one tree that we can just keep going and going and going. And that's good because we have, there's a runner. That's good because...
That's okay. I wanted to just say that the portal technology, the sleep is a portal, that when you're awake, your senses are portals. There's gates all over the place. This entire thing, TV, movies, portals, entries, openings,
friends,
all of it.
Relatives.
Yeah, exactly. It is like that. That's how spiritual, that's how supernatural, how paranormal us sitting at this table right now even is.
It all is.
It all is. And again, when I was talking about that experience I had when, in science, in psychology, they call it tactile hallucination. And what that is it's basically when you're able to feel something that's going on that didn't literally physically happen. So say you feel bugs crawling all over you, which I believe some people may have had that experience. I know I have. I don't care to admit it. There's been times where I've had nightmares where I'm literally dreaming that things are calling on me and I can feel things crawling on. I'll say this again. When you're in bed, when you're laying down, truthfully, physically, in your room, those are the things that exist that your senses should pick up. What you're actually hearing when you're laying down, what you're actually touching, what you're actually seeing. But when we go to sleep, our 5 senses are able to be stimulated and picked up by a whole entire range of other things, and we're not even consciously able to, most people I should say, are not consciously able to conjure that up at will while they're awake. So there's something
not unless
to
you're
that.
being hypnotized by a very good hypnotist.
Yes, exactly. But to get to the ending, which I keep trying to do, when you were talking about the oppression and the possession, the thing about that experience I had, it's like it was a level of their proximity to me, I would assume. And you will find that many times this is a stalking scenario. Again, back to that predation. A predator, a lot of times, just like, and believe, this is where we get into how, like you were talking about how miraculous the human being actually is. A a lot of times, just like in the wild, certain so-called prey have certain defenses and strength, where the predator needs to be a little bit mindful about what the person could or could not do in relationship to the predator, because they don't necessarily want to get harmed. The whole psyop is to convince mankind that there's nothing that we can do against them. That's part of the so-called grand deception, truthfully. But in reality, there is a stalking, and there is stages of stalking, stages of proximity that they seek to do. And it does start with how well of a gatekeeper you actually are over your world and your realm.
Right. You have the power.
So what's this have to do with alien abductions? I mean, I hope that it clearly already in and of itself correlated to what it had to do with it.
Absolutely. I mean, you need to stand back and look at the big picture. You really do. You need to see it all and put it together. This is a puzzle, and a lot of pieces were taken out of it, and we're not supposed to be able to figure out what the big picture is. But we have enough of the pieces now that we can figure it out for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're not aliens. I mean, all right, we can call them alien, but they used to be called Apkallu, they used to be called Ajiji, they used to be called Anunnaki, they used to be called Watchers, they used to be called fallen angels, sons of God. I mean, we can go on and on and on. Names change, but the method of operation has remained the same. And now we're having a bigger insurgence of a more visual manifestation of them. So it's culminating, and it always does. It has in the past. I don't know if anyone's aware or anyone has studied how many civilizations just disappeared off the face of the earth, gone. They find proof that they were there. They find strange things, skeletons, radiation levels so high that you still can't go in certain, I mean, they find some of the most profound things. What happened to them? What happened? And it's still like Tellinger, what he was talking about. You can still see proof of where these areas look like landing places for certain vehicles. We didn't have tech like that then, or did we? Mm-hmm. They did it before, probably more than once, fact, and they just continue. Why do they continue to do it? Because it works. It works for them. And they can only get so far with the civilization before, I don't know, something just isn't enough. They need more.
Well, that gets into like why someone who is more spiritually inclined can ultimately also be more targeted, because I mean, all the other, it's like the difference between, I don't know, like it's like different types of food. Like there's a difference between feeding on a so-called maybe a nuclear core versus on a flashlight. Like they're just, it's like the thing about the fallen is that ironically, and this is what they can never get away from, whatever they touch ends up being, again, I'm going to have to go deeper into this even in this video. Whatever they touch, they can't positively affect what they touch, which means that if they're interacting with mankind and they're feeding on them and they're damaging mankind, at some point, the quantity of light, the quantity of yield is going to be decreased. It's the same. It's almost like generation after generation and generation, that DNA just keeps changing
and
when it comes to a polluted environment
and breaking down.
And breaking down, exactly.
So, okay, you did it. You opened the door. You opened Pandora's little box.
Yeah.
There's pollution at such a high level on our planet. The DNA that replicates has broken down. Mm-hmm. So why are we seeing an insurgence of them now?
Like you should say, if evolution is true, why are we de-evolving?
If evolution's true, why are we de-evolving? I'm sorry, I'm not a big believer in monkey soup.
No, me either.
I mean, God only really knows what they used to splice us with.
Now, that doesn't mean that we don't take in a larger range of evolutionary principles compared to the whole Earth was created in 6,000 years. I mean, we as eclectic disciples take in a broader range of evolutionary principles compared to like the Earth was only made in 6,000 years type of thing.
Oh, that's another one. The Christians just ride on that.
The Earth is 6,000 years old.
Some of them, at least, yeah.
No, stop it. Well, God's, he's almighty and all-knowing, and all of this is true. So he could create something to make it look old. That's what I heard also from that side. And I'm like,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, no.
I mean, that's anyway. But that's just like, as you were saying, the air or water, our environment is being so much influenced. Like people always the Illuminati, the true elite, and that's where again we talked about it in our intro, the nine and the fallen angels when we get
exactly,
into the
and
higher
I'm not
councils,
talking
the
about
true elite.
who they call the nine now.
Yeah.
Please.
But our world is being, what they touch, they corrupt enough that if that thing takes the full code, the full mark of that corruption, it then follows in the same steps of its progenitor. It's like a vampire trying to turn a human into a vampire ultimately. If the more you follow in their ways, the more you actually do not produce, or you can't like touch the source, the light. You can't be in the sun, so to speak, in the same way.
That's so bad. It's so bad. That's so bad.
What?
Well, we've broken down to the point of where now we're basically junk food.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why
That's horrifying.
prime rib for them is people who still do connect to the light. They have a double-edged sword to their existence. They
That's
are
the battle.
antithesis to the light,
Yeah.
but wherever someone is actually resisting them enough to have it, they also are going to attempt to feed on that. So, yeah.
And you need to punch them in the face. Spiritually
Which
speaking.
is a lot of times why I think the harvest events tend to get greater and greater because they're trying to fucking starving. I mean, our world is, and that doesn't, I mean,
Dude.
anyways.
Okay.
Shit. Anyways.
No, I don't want that edited out. I want that
Okay.
left right in.
Oh, no, yeah.
That's real. Yeah, we've got problems out there.
Yes.
Okay, our brains are full of plastic. Our brain cells are dying.
Yeah, Alzheimer rates are
Parkinson's is soaring.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, Google will tell you that we've got a cure, just one shot, coming in 3028.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only $1 million a shot, and you only need 5 of them. So you can live. Oh, okay. Wonderful. Wonderful.
It's so bad.
It is bad. It's bad. You know what I think? I think that the higher up you go politically, you have to already have a disposition to even want to endeavor such things, first of all. Maybe you begin with wanting to make a difference, want to make things better. You start getting some donations, and you get more donations, and then suddenly the money starts flowing and you start to get a little different, and you end up in a place where now you're rubbing elbows with people who have lots of money, and the little guy is so far away, so far down on the ground that he looks like an ant now, and they fail us. I think that we're being failed by the so-called leaders. Not all of them. There are some okay. I'm not going to say great, but I'm not putting everyone down. But the people that are supposed to be taking care of these societies are basically turned corrupt.
Yeah.
And how are you supposed to evolve and have a different kind of society, one that isn't so fed on, isn't so polluted, isn't so poisoned, isn't so mentally ill, that we could thrive again if what we're dealing with are people that program you to be mentally ill, physically dependent on big pharma, corrupt and only want to get into your pocket, and you're allowed to have what, 2 days a week where you can go sit in the sunshine somewhere and maybe, if you're lucky, afford a coffee? And you want to talk about how that might affect a creature with multi-dimensions, energy fields. I mean, you've got problems all around you. I don't see how people make it here without having faith in God. I really don't see it. I don't think that you're going to make it without him. You're not. That's my opinion.
No, I mean, and I'm never, like, even as I live and breathe now, I mean, my goal, one of my highest beliefs is that heaven on earth, what that actually means is actually still possible as long as every second that we go forward in time, things have the potential to change. And the only thing that's kind of standing in its way is hell on earth, which is what I would feel that would say that we're experiencing right now.
Yep.
I mean, everyone.
And now the weather is getting worse, and there are more earthquakes in diverse places. Where did I hear that before? And it's actually bad. It's bad right now. Our sun is going crazy. Everything is culminating, and we're having more activity on a spiritual level by things that are not good things. I mean, you want to talk about abduction on a large scale. It's like I said, and we said in our previous videos, it has already happened.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're aware of it or not. It doesn't matter if you believe in it or not.
They are already here. The so-called coming alien invasion and all that. I mean, all they can do is likely create deeper overlays to make people like swayed into. But it's
like the overlays that I saw just recently.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I've heard someone say that they're talking about certain things like slavery. And I'm going back in my mind and I'm saying, well, hasn't mankind started out being taken from a very, very perfect state, immortal state, and going into a corrupt state to be utilized by creatures that were supposed to help take care of mankind, but now are actually being worshipped by humans, being enslaved by these creatures, and treating humans like they're work machines, but they leave that part out. They say that mankind was engineered to help mine gold. And what about the farming? What about the industrial push wave that came? That's what mankind was utilized for. No. That's what they did with mankind. Mankind was already in a perfect composition. No imperfections. No death, no dying, no rot. And then them. And then the fall. And everyone talks about, like, I'm going to go back to it again because it really bugs me. Some of the people that I've loved and followed for years, they lose that part. They lose God. And they end up believing that, well, yeah, they engineered us. And no. They didn't. They re-engineered you to die. And by the way, they engineered you to make more of yourselves. Let's talk about this.
Go ahead.
I mean, you can copy yourself. You can make copies of yourself.
Listen, one of the things
it's crazy.
I'm gonna try to say this as neutral and buffered and pure as possible, but one of the first things I've noticed, and it actually gets into what's happening at a broader stage when it comes to, Republicans versus Democrats, but what I mean is it comes down to this. It's like we're adults here, but again, I'm still gonna buffer it, but it's like The thing is that humans actually have the capacity to engage in the act of intercourse without necessarily desiring that the result be an entire child to come from it. And that's a proof of that concept of our replication, that animalistic aspect
aspect that we were spliced with by them, not God, by them.
That's why there's that soul, spirit, other dimensional experience to many things that we do, and then there's this fleshly echo manifestation of those very things.
The animalistic echo. They did a thing to mankind, and it worked out perfectly for them. But now we're breaking down. We're turning into junk food.
Because their own self-destructive ways and tendencies are eventually going to have their way with us. I mean, observe again, obviously. We can't seem to get it right, but that doesn't mean that we can't get it right. It just seems that under
not without God.
Dominant, exactly. That's where truthfully our paranormal terraformation is truthfully coming from. So
I agree 100%. So, alien abduction, grand mass scale. Alien invasion, happening as we speak.
Yeah, so much so that how should I say, there's basically, since you woke up today, there's already been activity in your life.
Of course.
Around you, there's so many different...
There's so many things that go with this, like, I knew what she was going to say before she said it, and we are such vast spiritual creatures, and if we can believe that we have intuitiveness, right now I know I'm going to pick up my glasses. Oh, I picked them up. You're naturally an intuitive. Naturally, to survive, to live, to just be a human being in this vessel, you're an intuitive. Oh, did I trigger you?
Yeah, yes, you did. Yes, you were talking about.
Run with it.
Okay, and then we conclude.
Well, I mean,
or if.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, as for the abduction.
Well, yeah. So you were talking about the intuitive and knowing what someone's going to say before they say it. Now, one of the ways that I've actually heard precognition actually talked about is in this concept where, say you're driving down the road and you have, say, 50-foot buildings on the side of you. You can't see really to the left, you can't see to the right, and you're driving down the road. And before you get to the intersection where you can turn left or right, there's another car coming, racing at full speed. Say maybe they're running from the cops. And say you're driving down that road and you can't see that car coming. So when the time actually comes, your response time is going to be, well, what your response time is going to be. Something could happen. But say you were in a helicopter that was higher than those buildings. From that dimension, from that viewpoint, you would be able to see both this car and that car coming at the same time. And there are reasons the gifts are true, and there is logics and explaining behind how they actually work, where there is sort of, like I said, I use the word metaphysics, spiritual physics behind magic, behind the supernatural, behind the paranormal. And in that case, what I was getting at is someone who may be more on a level or awakened to picking up that being receptive to information coming from that helicopter's vantage point would be able to see further ahead than someone who's just on the ground driving towards that very same event. And that's just what you said actually triggered that for me.
And I'm relating it to how these people every day, all day, every day of their lives are affected by unseen spiritual forces. But there are some that can see
Yes, there are
the
some
spiritual
that do.
forces, and there are some that have visitations in those ways, and then there are the ones that have the higher field, more open dimensions, that actually experience something creeping into their room, rendering them helpless, and who knows after that what goes on. Reports vary. Some say it's an examination, some say they've been in a room, they'll sit them in a room and show them the end of the world, a giant nuclear war, yada, yada, yada. There are many different things, many different scenarios that go on. The difference between somebody who's being affected on a, I don't want to say lower level, because it can kill you. They can affect you what you think you're going to do while you're driving your car.
Yeah.
And you could get, God forbid, unalived.
Like for an example, more recently, it's not a joke, it's not funny. Yeah, certain people that wouldn't do the same action, we could have an insight where it's like, well, we'd never be caught in that scenario. But recently there was that woman who ended up getting attacked by alligator, so to speak, and now she's not with us today. And it's like, you gotta, like, you can be influenced even if you're not aware of what's going on.
That's the
exactly.
point I'm trying to make.
To
No
end
matter
up-
who you are,
Exactly.
every moment, every day, under some influence of the spiritual forces around you, because just as you are a vast dimensional creature, so are the other dimensionally energetic based creatures. They are vast, and there's many of them, and it makes it scary.
Yeah, I know.
But it's true.
Yeah, it is both.
So some people get the nighttime alien abduction scenario visitation. Some people are plagued by seemingly demonic in their home, paranormal kind of encounter. And other people are walking around being influenced with their will. I quit drinking. I'm only going to have one drink today. Has 7 drinks. I quit smoking weed. I'm only going to have a hit. Smokes a whole whatever it is, bowl, bong, whatever they call it now. Everybody's having influence around them. It's your job to know that you're more than just monkey soup. You're more than just this flesh and blood vehicle that you're experiencing through. And that you're being, your essence, your life essence is being sought after. They are not trying to harm you.
So
They're trying to live on you, and when you're no longer useful, for whatever reason, you're expendable.
So yeah, it's like kind of how a virus works. Like the viruses don't benefit from their host being killed, because if the host dies quicker than they can take over and replicate themselves, then then they don't propagate, so to speak. So it's kind of the same way. It's like ultimately what they're going to do is end up damaging you, but at the same time they have a higher goal transcendent to what they would even sometimes.
But sometimes they can do something to somebody and it'll affect everyone around them so negatively that they can live on that.
Yeah, harness
that power, that energy, because there's nothing stronger than the pain that you have from losing a loved one, and I know that. So,
I mean, that gets into how strong death actually is.
Yeah, and how unnatural that it actually is. But that's a whole other video.
You said something like 2 minutes ago, because on the chart I do have class 1 through 5, and then I have it say there's a 6th, and that is the 4th kind. And in the experiences that you were just talking about some people with I really believe that it actually ends up, there's stages of a buildup. Like, just as you can start, like, there's different stages of nightmares, it's almost like in your world. you can find that I don't know, it's like
progression.
of that.
It's just the same kind of progression as I said and how they relate of oppression, possession, and then what happens after that.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the progression. And I don't really make a distinguished, they're the same.
Yes.
There's no distinguishing between an alien and a fallen angel with me, or a demon that's a disembodied spirit from a murdered Nephilim. Sorry.
You think it's fair to say
I
that...
can't say that on there, can I? I can't say that word.
No, you can.
Oh.
Yeah, because we're not getting the
'Cause
details about it.
Right, I said it. Yeah.
You think it's fair enough to say that there's also... Because when we talk about possession, there's like kind of a dual way where it's like someone can be possessed as far as being more so embodied.
It's levels.
And then there's also like that person just has, the entity has that person where they want them, where they're able to engage in their life at a higher capacity as well.
See, people have the wrong idea. They see a movie like The Exorcist by William Blatty, or that's the writer of the book, but I don't know who made the movie, but they see the movie like The Exorcist and they expect when they're encountering someone who's possessed that they're going to spit out pea soup and their head's going to spin around, and that's not always the case.
No.
You're going to see alcoholism, you're going to see heroin, you're going to see meth, you're going to see fentanyl, you're going to see possession in ways that would make it look human, fleshy.
Yeah.
It's not. There's nothing human about this stuff. This is a spiritual attack. I'm proud of people who can get out of that kind of possession. That's a fight, and they win sometimes, and that's awesome. That's amazing. To get out of that and to forge ahead, you've beaten some pretty dark entities when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to, before we conclude, before the world blows up, joking, it's terrible. Before I conclude, I do want to say, I don't want everyone out there to think that I'm just talking about the only things in existence are bad. We're talking about alien abduction and what kind of creature would cause something like that to happen. But there are good things out there. There are angelic beings that haven't fallen, that haven't lost their first estate, that, you know, they can be seen and intervene when free will allows, when God says, yeah, there's a clause here and here and here and free will allowed. And I mean, they are out there. They're just not going to sneak in your bedroom at night and knock you unconscious and run experiments on you. I mean, but there are good. I just want to clarify that I'm not saying that everything is bad.
In fact, the good are...
They influence you also.
They would you say? I mean, I feel like they also even assisted in getting us to this moment where we'd even decide to do this, because we were not about doing this for multiple reasons, but it definitely seemed to be something that was in alignment with the good factions when it came to...
Absolutely. It's a push.
And like you said, you know, the good do exist. And again, if you're not going to use lies, if you're not going to use the dark ways to get things done, or like how, like in movies they'll show it, and it probably happens in real life, to be honest, where it's like, okay, well, you know, in order to catch the bad guy, I'm going to pretend to be like them, so much so that I have to start adopting their ways and their energies and all that stuff. The rules of engagement, which we'll be getting in separately, also apply to how the good interact with us. And it isn't something that people are like, oh, you know, why not? Why don't they just come down? And it's like, do you, when you really think about that, not everyone down here is going to receive them in the same way. And it's almost like if they have the capacity to take out threats as well, because a lot of people think that good means no power, no defense, they can't fight. That's not true. The whole concept of guardian angels or warrior angels or any sort of archetype out there when it comes to the superhero with ability shows that there is good powered entities. But if they wanted to intervene in a civilization like ours, they would probably do their best not to have that civilization react violently, in which they would have to do harm to us, which defeats the whole purpose. We're just not ready for them.
That's exactly the case. Why haven't they made contact? Why can't, because nothing good, nothing of fathers wants to make contact with something that does the things that we do.
And that's on a mass level. On an individual basis, I would say that they have indeed made contact.
Oh yeah, we've had contact. We're had things happen. We're not going to show up on the White House and talk to, no.
I
mean, they might.
Well.
You never know.
Maybe if our world ultimately cultivated to that critical mass.
That would be great.
Like mass coherence frequency.
Yeah.
But then we have a lot standing in our way.
Yeah, because we've been broken down. And they've broken us down to this point. And it's hard to get up after that. And if you don't believe it, just turn on the news. Just turn on YouTube.
Yeah, I know.
Flip through the videos. What's going on here? This is weird. This is Babylon meets Matrix meets alien invasion meets, I mean, the Book of Enoch. We've got it all going on right now.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than what's really happening right now for entertainment.
Seriously.
And on that note,
I am M.
I'm G.
Eclectic disciples of Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
And we are the Paranormal Terraformation.
See you in part 3.
Part 3's coming.